guys, welcome to conversation number 19. My guest today is Lyndsey Gootee. She is a transformation coach and she helps people, specifically women, embody confidence and helps them find their leadership stride. She is a great person and she's all about positivity and she's perfect for the show. I'm so happy to have you here, Lyndsey. Welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Kristof. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. Every single conversation I say, so excited for my guests, and I 100% mean it every single time. Much like many people, I connect with them over Instagram because it's such a great social media tool, but I saw what you were doing on there, of course, and I had to reach out to you immediately. You just embody everything that I'm trying to do again, and helping other people, and not only just spreading positive content in general, but really targeting really how to help people. And I saw it punched out at me, and I was like, wow, I got to talk to her and I got to share her message, her story, and what she's doing with everything. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro. It's incredible. I realize that the more I get into this light leader space and being sort of trying to be like a consciousness change maker in a way. And it didn't even start off trying to do that. It just sort of built and snowballed into that. But you really just start to attract more and more people that also want to live in their light like that and help spread that. So I love that you were magnetized to me, and I can feel the energies. It's mutual. So
yeah, very much so. It's funny how that works out, and there's so many repeat topics that I bring up in these conversations, and that's the actual one of the many beauties of these conversations is seeing the topics that repeat and the subjects that consistently come up. And one of them is what you just said, is that when you really strive to bring that positivity into your life and meet other people with the same goals and passions and want to help other people or whatever it is, you really attract that. It works negatively as well, I mean, of course, but if you really strive to approach that positivity yourself and try to attract those people, it just snowballs. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, the law of attraction is something that I think I've realized more so in this year is the most real thing in the world. I mean, thoughts really do become things. Your vibration, that's going to attract everything that's around you. And it's really, once you learn how to kind of like how simple it is and how you can harness that and how you can become this conscious creator of your life and help other lives along the way with it, it's really empowering, because a lot of people, live in this victim mode and they think that they have no control over their circumstance, but really it's all in, I mean, it's like at least 80% of your mindset, I would say. 20% is more the action, but 80% of daily life is just getting your mind right and making sure that you are living in the vibration that you want to be creating more of and attracting more of. So whether that's positivity or light or just spreading joy to people, that's just only going to continue to multiply. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. So you describe yourself as a transformation coach. How would you describe that? It's kind of just like my coaching career has been like an onion in a way. I started off doing like health and wellness, and was I realized that there was a lot more to the picture than just eat this and exercise in that way. So I went into life coaching, and then I realized that there was even more to the picture than that, and that there's like all this spiritual, energetic side to it. So transformation coaching is sort of the next frontier of that, where it's more like empowering people with the tools to live a spiritual life and dive deep in their spiritual practices. And now I actually focus solely on women who want to be coaches themselves or light leaders. So I coach coaches, that kind of a thing. No, it's very cool.
So it's wonderful. I realized that there was so many women out there that really want to help, and they also want to empower, and whether it's business coaching, soul alignment coaching, like intuitive coaching, whatever it is, they just didn't have like the means or the understanding of how to put their gifts into the world. And so now I make programs for women who want to be coaches themselves. Yeah.
So when you, that's incredible. But when you say you make the program, so these are things that you're literally creating yourself from scratch, or are you pulling these programs from a, for lack of another word, like quote unquote, like franchise company, or you're actually creating these yourself?
Yeah, great question. I create them all myself. It comes all from my clients and from content and just from their needs. I have like pages and pages of notes on like client needs and what they go through and all of that, and then I tailor programs completely to that. So just last week I went and did this little like Oasis trip, solo trip by myself, and I just like dove into the creative vortex, and I made this program that starts August 13th. I actually just like designed the whole thing out and built it from scratch. So Yeah.
Wow.
I make them.
That's really cool. I just spoke with somebody who does something similar to you. She'll come out in the conversation prior to you, and there are a lot of similarities. However, and there's, it's just different, but she does it through another, I think it was Beachbody, and absolutely a great company from what I've seen, and she's crushing it. But it is cool to see the contrast and see that you can also, you can do it with how she's doing it, but then you can also do it how you're doing it, and you can choose to not have to subscribe to something else that's already there, but you can go ahead and you can have that creativity from yourself and build something yourself that you truly believe in and tweak every single detail you'd like and be able to share that. That's very cool. I actually I haven't met anybody like that yet, so that's very neat to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love like the creation piece of it. I never thought of myself as a creative. I was like, oh, I'm just type A and whatnot. But getting able to like dive into that, it's the most important thing to remember when you're doing that is just that it's not really about you and what you want to share. It's exactly about the person and what they need to learn and, what they're going through in their experience. So like taking the ego mind out of it and being like, okay, it's all about them. It's all about the client. What's her needs? And then it becomes just easy street to kind of create because you're just tailoring it to this like one woman type thing. Yeah. Or man. Yeah. Whatever.
Well, have you, I know because you're kind of at least marketing it towards women, at least on your social profile, but do you speak with men and do you help them as well if they seek assistance through you?
So I've had a couple males reach out, and I just think that right now my focus is on women, but in this field I'm always going to be evolving, and I do foresee myself at some point in the future working with the masculine. I think I do have a good connection there, and that I help them like feel like a safety space within their feminine energy and able to speak more in those ways. So maybe someday with the masculine I will work, but for now it's just centered.
Yeah, no, and I'm just asking, and I'm curious, and I don't think there's clearly nothing wrong with that, and I think it's almost better to be, especially if it's just you, which it is, to be like refined towards one part so you can solely focus on one thing, especially since there can be vast differences between the genders there, a multitude of reasons you probably could speak more towards, but being able to, and even as you said, but you are making these programs different for each woman, so there's probably even a lot of difference between every single person that you're already working with, so I'm sure that's challenging in its own self.
Yeah, they face a lot of similar struggles too, though, especially like wanting to step into the coaching role. There's things like fears and blocks and imposter syndrome, and a lot of them are very similar. Of course, each woman is her own snowflake self, and she has her own like different bag of things she brings to the table. But right now I do group programs, so it's mainly like their overarching topics that really apply to all of them. And it's a lot of the time in coaching, the person that you serve is yourself, whether it was a year ago or 2 years ago and where you were. So it's really easy for me to speak to a woman 2 years ago, but not necessarily a man in my shoes 2 years ago. So
yeah, that's definitely a repeat topic that's come up as well, and I know that's a lot of, there's a plethora of reasons why I'm doing this show, and I know we've discussed offline some of those reasons, but one of them is because I have I've gone through a few things myself, and it's so much easier to help other people when you've gone through it yourself. And we were just talking offline, and how a lot of people know me personally or know me through the show is that I've been going through this transition myself, from a job to a new job, a new location, and everything. And so obviously, it's easy to see that happens a lot in these topics that I speak towards, and these guests that I talk to. They've started one place and they didn't like where they were, so they made a new life for themselves. And that's what I want to show. So I guess speaking of, you've been doing this for a couple of years now, and how is it what you're solely doing, and how did you start? Like all these, I'm so curious.
Yeah, of course. So I always knew I wanted to be some kind of like a therapist or a nutritionist, or I really loved personal development ever since I was in high school. And then out of college, I got a job in tech in San Francisco just because it was easy and money, and you just kind of fall into that. So I'd been doing it for 2 years, and I have what was called like my bathroom floor moment. And I was on the bathroom floor, and it's like, it's a little embarrassing to talk about, but it's it's a part of my story, and it's a time when I had literally every box in my life was checked. I had a great boyfriend, a group of friends, an amazing apartment in the city, like a 6-figure income, a great job, and I was just horribly like empty and just unfulfilled. I didn't understand why, and so I remember I was crying on the bathroom floor, and I heard like a small soft voice tell me, like, just go sit in your room and meditate. Just go meditate for a minute on this. And I hadn't meditated in years, like not since high school. So when I did, that was a moment when it was a high self meditation, and it was guided, and my high self came into the room with me and like basically just enveloped me in this like cradling energetic space of love, and like showed me that like what you are meant to do for other women is help them achieve this place of their high selves as well. So after that, it kind of everything just fell into place that, okay, I'm meant to start coaching now. And I just like had to seek out programs and certifications and mentors. And then now I'm doing it full time. I left my corporate job, and because I mean, the universe really responds to 2 feet in. If you're like halfway out and you're a little fearful and you're like, I still want a safety net, then you can't leap and expect another net to appear. And people think that a lot of time. Yeah, people think you have to have like the security first, and you have to have the clients before you leave the job. But before I left my corporate job, I only had 1 private client, and I was just like, I got to do it. I got to go in. So I did, and the universe responded in a very beautiful way. Now I'm very, very lucky, and I do very well in this because I love it. So it's in alignment.
That's incredible to hear. Thanks for sharing that. You definitely have to jump in 2 feet, and it's so funny. I'm just looking at hearing your story, and then thinking about my own story, of course, at the same time. And you very much have to jump in with 2 feet. My job, of course, and I don't even think I've shared it, but I was coming from a military background for almost a decade, and I actually just got out, and it was very difficult to do. There's a lot of safety nets there as well. So I understand that, and I understand it's really, really hard to like wrap your head around leaving some of that or all of that safety net, the financial backing or whatever is keeping you there. And it's really hard to get away and start something, especially I think in your sense, to work for yourself. And you said you only had 1 client before you did it, but you're like, just rip the Band-Aid off, and you're like, let's just go jump 2 feet in, and let's just go through it, and absolutely crushing it now. And of course it didn't happen overnight.
No,
but
definitely not. The entrepreneur game is no joke. It is not for the faint of heart. People have to understand. And it's also hard because you're everything. You're your boss, you're your CFO, you're your operations manager. I mean, you handle, like I was telling you today, my task list is totally opposite things, and you just have to really show up for yourself. But it's like you said, I mean, leaving the safety net is so terrifying, but like once you leave it, you're like, why doesn't everyone do this? Exactly. I don't understand why everyone likes to live in the safe zone.
No, it's such a good point.
We're taught to believe that security means happiness, but really security for me was almost stifling of my true gifts. So, every path is different, but I think you can't a life following your passion.
It most surely is, and a lot of people do get stuck, and that's like, I mean, there's, like I said earlier, I said there was a plethora of reasons why I did this show, and you were a great example of that. And now the more we talk, the more I realize the even better of an example you are, because you're literally showing that you have to, well, we already said jump off for 2 feet, but that you have to absolutely be passionate about what you're doing as well. And I, of course, and again, in my own life, I know if I didn't care for something, God knows I was not successful in it by any means, as a child, as a teenager growing up, and then now. And only when I truly care about something am I successful in it for the most part. So, of course, to be able to bring that to the table, to be able to bring that passion to something, and then also being able to bring that passion to helping other people. And I think all of that incorporated together is a recipe for success, as long as you're willing to have that hard work. And I think when you do jump off with those 2 feet, you really only have one option at that point. When you've pulled away from that, quote unquote corporate job, whatever it is in whoever's life that's listening or watching, when you pull away from that security and that safety net, you really only have one option at that point. And it's so funny. It makes me think of, I always heard the quote, you always have to have a plan B. And it wasn't until I made a decision to leave my job that I realized that I needed to not have a plan B. Because when you have a plan B, most of the time you're just going to allow that plan A to fail, and you're just going to go ahead with your plan B or whatever tertiary plan, or go on, so on and so forth. And I think that speaks towards a lot of adversity in life. When there's a plan B, you're not as scared, or there's a lot of synonyms there, but you're not as scared, or you're not as adamant about making plan A work. So I think that probably, there's obviously a lot of variables and reasons why you fell into your success, but that's, I'd like to think, one of the reasons, and you probably agree with me as well.
No, I really do. I think it came, from obviously having drive and hard work and desire to be successful. That's a huge part of me, but something that I realized success in this was something that I try and teach my clients all the time. It's just finding alignment in yourself and in your work, because that's what makes things magnetic to you. Mm-hmm. That by magnetic, I mean success, like abundance and clients. And a lot of the women that I work with, they're like, oh, I want to be a wellness coach because it's really marketable and I'll get a lot of clients and make a lot of money. And I asked them, like, are you passionate about that? Do you really love that? Is that your highest excitement? Because I started off in that as well, and there's no shame in that. I think it's a beautiful profession. But if you're more interested in like psychic reading or intuitive soul, like anything like that, people are going to want to work with you because you are in your zone of genius and you are so excited about it. It's like the fun, the joy, that's all very magnetic. So sure. Yeah. Coupling the alignment with the hard work is the most important part.
Yeah, there's definitely no one key ingredient for success. If we've divulged anything in the last few minutes, there's so many things that it takes, and I think that there's a few more underlying things, the drive to be able to want to have that long-term success, but there's so many things that are involved, and I think you just have to, for me, I just had to make the decision one day and be like, I pretty much told myself that I was sick and tired of doing what I was doing right now. There's a lot of things that I absolutely loved about what I was doing, and I would never speak bad towards that job and anything that I did there. But it was just time for me to move on, and I couldn't see myself doing it as a career, much like, you had your moment that you shared with us, your bathroom moment, as you describe it.
Floor.
And that's your bathroom floor moment, and that's really tough, and it takes those moments, but you're like, man, I don't, and I think that's another good point that I wanted to bring up, is that I think a lot of times people, especially maybe when they're growing up, or in their high school especially, and in their college, and they maybe you would see somebody like you, Lyndsey, and be like, holy crap, I can't believe like you even had that moment, or you'd want to give that up when you got a job out of college, which a lot of people aren't getting, and you got a great job, and you were making good money, and you even described it that you had you said you had a great boyfriend, good place, good job, all these things were going on in your life, but still you had your bathroom floor moment. And I think that's a very powerful point. It hits home to me, and it really shows that all these things that, I don't know, these images and situations that you have in your head that you think would bring you happiness and that would bring you fulfillment, I think almost a better word, that a lot of times they may not. And it probably, some people are more than happy in that position that you had, and what other position they get equivalent to that. However, for people like yourself and for people like me, it didn't bring me the true fulfillment that I wanted out of life. And it's so tough. I think about you in that moment, and I think about a lot of moments that I've had with myself, and then like talking to my wife about it, and we're both like, is this crazy or is it not crazy? But then I think when you actually have that moment, excuse me, when you have that moment and you decide that to jump off the cliff, with 2 feet, then I think almost at a moment, and you may have said this yourself, but then you look back and you're like, oh, I wish I would have done that sooner. I wish I made that decision sooner, and it wasn't so bad because I know for myself, like I think so many times, I think of situations like this transition I had in careers, and it was so much worse in my head before I did it. So much worse. I thought of all these negative things, and sometimes they are like actual rational thoughts were negative things that could come into fruition, but more times than not they don't ever really come into fruition. And I guess sometimes it is healthy to think of like the negative things that could happen. You need to like weigh the risks and the rewards, most definitely. But a lot of times you definitely need to risk quite a bit to get the reward that you're seeking, and you did just that, and you're a shining example of the success that and you, like I said, you epitomize that for this channel. I want to show people that they can be locked, literally, like you were locked into, you probably could have at one point envisioned yourself doing something like that your entire life, maybe, right? And then you realized, so how, and you may have said this already, so forgive me, but how long was it that you were like post-college working in this job, had this, relative success, and until you had this moment and you realized it wasn't for you?
2.5 years.
Whew.
That's all the time it took.
Yeah, which isn't, in the grand scheme of things, is not too long of a time,
Yeah, and in the beginning it was great, and I loved it, and I loved the money that was coming in and like the exciting lifestyle that it brought, but it just grew emptier and emptier for me. And I think for people like you and I, we know that there's this burning desire and this passion within to do something deeper and to connect on a deeper level. And we know that there's just more to life than checking the boxes, and being able to make careers out of that is so incredible. And I'm so grateful to have found this field. But those burning desires and those passions, they don't go away, over time. And that's why when people have that and when they feel that, I urge them to run with that, because anytime I think that you feel, yes, there is one side of you that has to manage the risk and be, very smart about your decisions, but anytime that you feel fears coming up and something kind of scares you in a way, it's that is like your heart and your soul screaming out to you, like, go for it. Because anytime you really, really want something, of course, it's the ego self kind of tries to kind of keep you here, but you just really, really have to push forward into a space of like total love. And it comes down to trusting yourself too. Like, do I trust myself enough to show up and to make this happen? Sure.
And then it comes full circle, doesn't it? Because even though you said you were making adequate money, more than adequate money initially for those 2.5 years, yet you didn't find happiness, and then you had one client and you took the jump, you took the leap, and I'm sure times were, I think I can safely assume that that's a scary place to be, and times mentally at a very minimum were very tough for you to be able to get through that. But then here you are, and you have that success again, and now it's success through something that you actually enjoy, and through something that you actually gain all that fulfillment through. So it's possible, and in so many times, another reason, another great example, because now, yes, you left something that provided a great source of income for you, but to take that leap and now to do something that you love and that you're passionate about could very well potentially give you that great source of income again, and it truly has here in your example.
Yeah, it's really just being like in tune with yourself, and again, it's the alignment. The success came when I figured out who I was meant to serve and how I was meant to serve, and once I felt that, it was like just vibrated through my entire being, and then that magnetized. In spiritual terms, I guess I'm a little woo-woo with it, but I think you understand what I mean. It's just figuring out that crystal clarity on who I wanted to serve and how I wanted to help, and then that became very, very easy, because people are drawn to that. So
absolutely
trying to help other women find that as well.
No, obviously, and you don't need me to say it, and it's very clear to see that what you're doing, and you're doing it well, and you are attracting other people, because I found you, and I would not have found you unless you were doing all these things. And I'm glad that you agreed to this conversation so I could learn about it, because you were even a better example than I thought of when I initially found you. And that's what's so cool, or one of the many things that's so cool about this show, is obviously I love sharing all these things and these stories and these tribulations, but it's it's really fun getting to meet people and network with like-minded people that are going through similar things, people that are maybe behind me in some things, people that are ahead of me in some things, because obviously we're not all on the same path, and we're all headed in our own direction towards our sense of fulfillment. And I'm definitely not there yet for myself. I gave the example. I can't remember if it was an episode or two ago, but I am still currently working for someone, but I'm doing everything, including this project right here, to be able to work for myself, because that's something that would be great. And then even if it doesn't work immediately, I'm still able to contribute, share stories like yours, and to help other people, hopefully. And I truly do hope other people are listening to these and being inspired, because that's what these are. They're conversations with inspirational people.
Yeah. And I mean, do you feel like happy in this moment, in what you're doing?
I do. I can't wait for any of these conversations. Like, I'm always very, very excited for them, because like I said, for so many reasons, for meeting people, and it's not like my flame of inspiration gets exhausted, but sometimes it burns a little dimmer. And when I continuously push myself to network with like-minded people, it keeps that flame as bright as it possibly can. And I think that's a really important point to make, not only for this, quote-unquote show, but for people's lives, your life, my life, whoever's life that's listening. It really, really helps push you, because sometimes, I will have more tough days, or like my wife, like she'll have, tougher days, and vice versa. When I'm having my tougher days, she can be like, listen, blah, 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 or whatever I need to hear in that moment, and vice versa, and I can help her. So when you have friends or spouses or partners or whoever in your life that care about you, care about what you're passionate about, understand what you're passionate about, and understand why you want the success and the fulfillment you want, then they can be a lot better of a support. And I think it's a good idea to share that with them, so that they can fully understand and know how to support you the best. Because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not, like I said, I use like the flame metaphor, but my flame's not always burning at full capacity like a bonfire. Sometimes it's a little bit smaller, like a candle, and I'm not feeling too motivated or too inspired to do anything. And then like today, I was busy editing. You asked me about how my morning was, and I was like, that's great. Like I was very appreciative of that, and I was just like kind of going through the motions, doing like some editing for some prior videos and audio, and I knew what I had to do for the rest of the day. But then speaking with you reignites that, and I'm like impassioned and empowered to go do other things that I want to do, and just get things done. So here's a literal example happening as you're hearing and watching the show of me being re-inspired for the day. So it's pretty cool how it works.
Yay! We're that flame bright. That makes me so happy to hear.
Yeah.
And it's true. You really become the sum of the 10 people that you hang out with, and you have to make sure that they are on the same page with you in life, and that they are supportive of your dreams and your goals. And it's just, I've learned so much, like in my mindset, the people that I've surrounded myself with. And the more I get deeper into this field of like light leading and trying to be a consciousness change maker, the more I realize that certain people kind of just had to fall away. And, it's painful and it's difficult, and it's like a piece of you is leaving when they do. But, it's only going to help you and help others rise as well, if you can, just sort of set those boundaries for yourself. But something I did want to just mention that I heard you say earlier, you were talking about, like getting success and getting to this certain place and not being, where other people are yet on the path. And I think that the most important thing to remember, as hard as it is for myself as well, because I was always so achievement driven, and I was always I want to like accomplish this and get that, but there's never really an end, and you never really get where you want to be, because you're always going to be striving and looking to the future. And so for me, I try now and wake up every day and just think, am I content in today? Am I happy in today? I know I have these goals and these places that I want to strive to, and yes, that pushes me forward, but it's more so now for me about finding like a calm inner peace, like centered congruency place within, because I realized that even when the success did come more than it ever had, I still was I mean, it was a time when I was so actually stressed out of my business that I was like really, really overwhelmed and had a lot of adrenal fatigue. But like, the funds finally rolled in, and it made me realize that being so achievement driven sometimes can be a little bit of a backwards thing. So it's important to just remember that you're exactly where you're meant to be on your path right now. And as long as you're happy, you're fulfilled, you're supported, and you are lighting that fire every day, then that's, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. So
yeah, of course, I can level with that fully, because I am very achievement driven. I'm very goal driven, and I'm always wanting to better myself. And of course, all those things are good things as long as you do what you just said. And live in the moment, live for now. All those things that are cliche, but are cliche for a reason and very true. So yeah, I'm glad you share that as well. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to, who was I talking to? I think I was talking to Dr. Jacob Harden in a couple conversations ago, and he was talking about how to love your wins. And I think that kind of reminds me of what you were just kind of discussing. Like, yeah, it's great to have these goals and want to do all of these things and constantly make something better for yourself, because of course you want to have progress. But at the same time, you got to take a step back at least to kind of see what you've done and what you've accomplished, and really appreciate that and love yourself for what you're doing for yourself and for those around you.
Yeah, because being in gratitude energy and appreciation energy and focusing on all the things that you've already created, that is what, again, puts you into that vibration and helps those to multiply and bring more of it into your life. But sometimes when we are so achievement driven, we're focused a little bit on the lack, and that is what tends to multiply. And it's difficult in this game, to focus on the clients that you don't have instead of the ones that you do have, and then that begins to manifest. So yeah, it's really important. I love that. Love your wins. I need to love more of my wins.
Yeah, it's tough. And oh God, I mean, I've learned a lot from you, and I've learned a lot from so many other people, because of course I've said it a million times, like, yes, I'm trying to share this information, but I'm also trying to learn from you, from all of my guests. For me, like, I want to learn as well. And this project hit so many brackets, so I was able to incorporate everything I want to do into this. Like yourself, like I just talked to Marie for the conversation before. All these people are helping themselves while helping others. And oh man, even the conversation before that, Andrew, like, he's talking about that as well, building businesses off of that as well. And it's obviously a common theme for anybody that's listened to more than one of these. But like I said, I do want to hit home that's why these are repeat themes. Because yes, I am selecting my guests, but at the same time, obviously, as every single guest and person knows, that none of this is scripted, and I have no idea what's really going to come up in the details. And for you to bring up the same details as like a lot of other people have brought up, there's a reason why those things are coming up, because you guys are taking these these leaps, and you're doing all these things, and you're following your passions and following what you need to do. And I think, and you said it before, so many people get locked into what they're doing and maybe think that's the only option, and think that there's no way I could leave this safety net. And I think, I don't know, here's just a thought, a random thought. What if, I mean, you said you had a boyfriend, but I think maybe, because I have a wife, we don't have any children, I'm just thinking here off the top of my head, what if somebody's asking, like, or Chris or Lyndsey, what happens if I'm married, I have kids, I can't afford to leave my job and do something? Like, that's tough. If somebody was to ask me that question, I don't know, I would probably recommend them to go ahead.
I get it can be scary. I think it goes along the lines of what we were saying, that the minute that something you're really passionate about comes up, of course, all these fears are going to come to the surface and all the reasons why you think you shouldn't do it. But if you are truly passionate about it, and again, if you trust yourself, I would always tell someone to go for it. And
absolutely,
it's more along the lines of and it's just knowing that you're going to be supported. It's just this deep level of trust. And the thing is, you never going to understand that deep level of trust in universe or whatever power you believe in, or just, you're never going to understand that deep level of trust until you really put yourself in a position where you have to. It's like you're not going to be supported until you jump off the ledge and do it. And I understand the rational thought needs to be there, but I think that people don't realize how powerful, and do you ever listen to Abraham Hicks?
I have not.
Like, she's
no.
okay, well, I would recommend looking her up. She just says when people realize how simple it is, I think they'll just throw their heads back and laugh and realize that you can create almost anything you want in your life for yourself. You just really have to have that belief and that knowing, and focus on your desires, not on your fears and on the things that you're lacking or the things that could go wrong. Because what if it goes right? What if now you can take your family on vacations every year? You could live in that house that you want to live in, and so we either focus on what if all the things go wrong, or what if things go right and it works out. Because again, if that's his inner desire, if like he wants to leave and his job and do something he loves, and that's his inner burning desire, that's not going to go away, and he's not going to probably be a good husband or father figure showing up if he's stifling his joy. Okay? So
absolutely. Yeah, I would. I'm glad you said that, because I would in this hypothetical, I would give the same. I would offer the same advice as well, because you're not gonna, even if you stay at that job and if you do have that safety net, you're still not gonna have that. You're just not gonna feel complete, and you're gonna be really worried about like, why did I never take that leap? And I know there's some crazy things I've done in my life where I had to leave them because I knew that it wasn't my true calling, even as much as I wanted to do it. And I left them. Even like I just gave the example of leaving the job I just left. I did absolutely love so many things about it, but I couldn't, and I was able to help people too, but not in the manner that I'm even to help people here, like through this podcast and this YouTube channel. So I think regardless of your situation, and even if it makes things worse for you initially and for the short term, and maybe even a little bit longer than a short term, whatever timeline that it does take, I would go out on a limb, a very strong limb, and say that regardless of that setback temporarily, that you're making a very positive step forward, because not only will you be doing something that you love, but when your family realizes that you're doing this and you tell them why you're doing this, and then you garner that support from them, then you'll be in a lot better place.
And then think of the example that you're setting too for your family and your kids. You're showing them that it's possible, and you don't have to live in a job that you hate or a world that you're unhappy in, and just follow suit. You can't step outside, and then they'll go on and help others as well, and that's the kind of fire that we want to spread.
Exactly, spreading the fire, and the snowball effect that you were talking about much earlier. And that's a great point. And like I said a little bit earlier, like I don't have kids now in my life, but I also want to be able to set a good example for them. So yes, it doesn't even go for setting a good example for your spouse or your partner, for whoever, your family, your friends, but also passing it on to the next generation and showing them as well. And that's just even another, we're hitting like all these billets here, but we're even another reason why I wanted to start this, because I saw so many people that I was working with, including myself, that weren't happy to do it. Now, for those in the military that may be listening to this, just as I was, yes, you volunteer to do it. You are in a contract for X number of years for whatever contract you signed up, but you still have the option after that contract ends to go out and do what you want. You can either renew it, for X amount of years, or you can go leave and do something that you care about. And for those, again, I'm not even doing something that was my job in the military. I'm doing something completely different that I enjoy much more. So that's the possibilities are endless. What's that?
You're probably seen as the crazy one in maybe their eyes, or what's he doing? Like, that's just so out there, that kind of thing.
And maybe so. But and hopefully, or maybe some of those people, thought it was crazy, and maybe I was making a wrong decision. But I hope that I inspired some people, because again, a lot of people around me, not just at the last place I was working, but all throughout my career, didn't necessarily like what they were doing specifically. So hopefully I inspire them to go do what they want. And it makes me think of even another crazy point. I had, and maybe it's the same people for you, maybe you had parents or friends in your life that told you, like, Lyndsey, you're making the wrong decision. You shouldn't do this. You have a great job. You have a great life, because they think of all these things. You have a great life. You have all these safety nets. You shouldn't do it. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, I will say, like, other than my wife, I would say professionally, 100% of the people in my life told me not to make the decision, and that I could never do it. And just for you went to college, I didn't. I dropped out. Everybody knows that a million times over. But the job I applied for, even they're like, you're an idiot to apply for it. They not in those words, but it requires degrees. You can't get it. But I applied for it regardless. And I got the job. Here I am, So I would, say to anybody, yeah, I know it's even talking about it, like I haven't talked about it for a couple months, so it's funny how it works out. But I think regardless of what like prerequisites there are, I think, and I was passionate about the job I was applying to. I wanted to work with those people, and I think when you do your interviews, the people I'd like to think of, the people that at least were interviewing me, could see that I was passionate about what I wanted to do and what I wanted to work with them. So that was more important to them, because they can hire the integrity, they can hire the passion, and but they can't teach that stuff, right? They can teach the technicalities of a job. So don't just be afraid to go do something because you may or may not know how to do it. I am sure you didn't know how to do everything you wanted to do in this project and company that you've created, but you knew the idea of what you wanted to do, right? And then you figured it out along the way.
Yeah, still figuring it out along the way. I feel like I'll forever be learning
for sure.
And figuring it out. But it's so true. I love your point where you can't teach passion and you can't teach excitement, but you can definitely teach someone step-by-steps on how to do an actual job. So I'm sure they could tell that you really, really just wanted probably a whole life shakeup and a big change, and you were really ready to dive into something new that you are passionate about. And that's why they hired you, not because you have something written down on a piece of paper that says you went to school for 4 years. Yeah. It's so much different than that. And when it comes down to the people in your life, there was definitely a lot of flack for me. Like, oh, you're going to be a coach. What does that even mean? What does that even look like? I live in San Francisco, so I'm in tech culture. So it's like I'm totally on just the outside of what everyone else does. They're 9 to 5s, and luckily my family was extremely supportive. They knew that it was my deep-seated passion, and my sister was like, if you're not willing to be homeless for your dreams, then you're not going to make them happen. And so I was lucky in that sense. But
that's awesome.
I loved that teaching passion piece.
Yeah, no,
it's just something that's in you or it's not.
Yeah, and it's you either have it or you don't, and that's why you need to find things that bring that passion into your life, things that you are already passionate about. Maybe just write them down. I'm a huge fan of writing things down, and write them down. Just write a list of things that you're passionate about, and then maybe think about how you could monetize it and do a job like that and help others. Or it doesn't have to, I'm not saying like it has to help other people. I would encourage it, to be able to at least give back and teach others how to do what you've done in some shape or form. But it doesn't have to be like that. But yeah, just write them down. See, you get a list of even like 2 to 5, 10 things, things that you enjoy. I don't care. In this day and age, I don't think really there's like an excuse. Like, I think maybe like video games, like obviously like everybody knows like you can monetize like video game streaming right now. But I think if you would have said like even 10, 15, 20 years ago, if somebody was making, millions of dollars video gaming or, living video gaming, you would have never thought that was possible. And I think that speaks, it's just in one of a ton of examples. You can just do something that you enjoy, playing video games, the thing that as a boy growing up playing video games, my mom was like, it's going to rot your brain or whatever, it's wasting time. But now there's tons of people that are living examples that are really good at it and making money off of it. So I'm just using that again as just a random example. It popped up in my head to do anything that you want, whether it be coaching, whether it be video games, whether it be you name it, and you can do it. The
thing too, that a lot of the time you can love a job for parts of the job and for the way that the job operates and who you get to be in it. It doesn't have to be one field and one thing that you're super passionate about. My roommate loves her job because she loves the role that she has and how she gets to interact with people and head up big projects, but she's not necessarily passionate about, Dropbox or where, like the actual product itself. So I think it's more so about the role too. There's different ways that you can passion. And I love to write it down. I keep a notepad next to my bed every night because I swear when I wake up in the middle of the night, I have my best ideas. They just come right out of or I wake up and they're just delirious scribbles.
That's some of the reason I can't fall asleep. It's so funny. I was just, again, obviously, my wife gets a lot of the brunt of my thoughts and crazy ideas, but I was like, She said, what time did you fall asleep? I was like, and midnight is late for me to fall asleep. I couldn't fall asleep till midnight 2 nights ago because I was just like, I'm like, how can I make the podcast better? How would I want to, if I was following a podcast, what would I want to see in the podcast? And I'm like sitting there, and I have a notebook here in my office, but like next to my bed, I just, I have my phone and I have like my notes up, equivalent, and I'm just typing all these things in there. So if I can't fall asleep, I would recommend somebody do the same. Like, think about the things that we're talking about during this episode. Just think about things to make you better, and what you'd want to do. Write that list down, because a lot of my ideas do come at that time of night, which is crazy, but I'm not going to stop that from happening.
Yeah. Sounds like it was the full moon. That's probably why.
Oh, was it?
You, but I was from 2 nights ago, but.
Oh man.
No, I totally agree. Those flow moments and those inspiration moments and those hits are coming through. You really have to try and capture those in the best way you can.
You really do. So it took you 2.5 years to make this absolute change in your life. And so how many years has it been now since you've been doing? And again, you may have said it earlier, but how many years have you been doing this now?
Like just hitting 2.
Just hitting 2.
2 years.
Cool. So definitely your feet. Those 2 feet that you jumped off said cliff are pretty wet by now. You're probably in deep. 2 years, I think, is a fair amount of time to be involved in something that you're doing. And you're absolutely glowing.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, now in retrospect, for somebody listening, like, how do you feel about that decision? I mean, it's an obvious answer. It's kind of redundant. Like, you feel great about it, but I mean, of course, you'd recommend anybody to, like, it always, like we said, it's so tough at the time, but here you are 2 years later, a great example of somebody who made that huge leap in life and are absolutely loving it.
Yeah, and I would recommend it to anyone, again, who has a burning desire to do something different or just knows that they're meant for more, and just don't stifle that. Listen to that, because that inner voice, again, it doesn't go away. And it's really a beautiful thing when you can come into that alignment. And like I said, the fears, of course, are going to come up, and they're going to try and, hold you back from moving in that direction. But on the other side of that fear is really you living in your flow and living in your highest alignment and in your like truest state of joy. And that's what's going to bring you success in your life, not just in terms of money, but also in terms of inner fulfillment and happiness.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The beautiful thing when you can see your real gifts and bring those into the world. So anyone thinking about doing it or making a big leap like that, if it's in your mind, I recommend just slowing down and taking a little time with yourself and really tuning in and learning how to listen to that inner voice. For me, it was the high self that one day, but really, really tapping into that person within and listening to those messages, because that's where your truth really lies.
Absolutely. So. Now, do you think there was a lot of reasons, and we spoke towards them quite a bit already, like this leaving the safety nets, but were there anything like substantially like really big roadblocks during this transformation of yourself, this transition, that you did not think you'd be able to get over? Like, there's like, I really want to do this transformation coaching, which you've evolved into now, but I can't do it because of this. What, did you have anything like really big, just in your way that you didn't think you could get by at the time that you pushed through? And if so, how did you get past those?
There were a couple things, like, well, when I started not having a client for the first 6 months was really, really difficult. And then I didn't have any time because I worked in this job. So that was really difficult. And I just was super in this victim place of like, oh, it's just all happening to me, not for me. But I didn't realize that it was just prepping me in the most like juicy, hard inner work, divine way for like the gateway to open. A really hard roadblock was, like I said, certain people, when you step into this path, they fall away. And that boyfriend that I had at the time was not a consciousness mind and a change maker and didn't want to elevate in this way. So that really, really changed my writing. It changed the way that I showed up. It was a really like dark time for me, but it also helped me to connect with a lot of people that were on that same level. So I would say those were some of the roadblocks, but they've all led me to a higher state and to understand more depth in people. So I wouldn't change any of them. And there's mini roadblocks all the time, continuously. Like I just took another huge, they always come up. I mean, I just took another huge leap of investing in another spiritual coach of my own. Mentors always have mentors kind
Sure.
of thing. And, it's definitely feeling a little bit like a fearsome thing right now, but I know that on the other side of that is what's meant to be. So
Absolutely.
it's good.
No,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. No, that just popped in my head, and I had to ask because maybe people are like, well, I would do it, but, this or that. But it sounds like, or it definitely sounds like it doesn't matter what's there. You're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. And once you make the decision to jump off with 2 feet, you don't care what obstacle's there. You're going to hurdle it, and you're going to find a way to hurdle it. So you just have to make that decision, and then once you've made the decision, do whatever it takes, because that's what you're passionate about. And so if that's what you're truly passionate about, go do it.
Exactly. Yes. Go do it. As simple as that. And gosh, the roadblocks, they are going to come up, but they're just going to teach you so much about who you are. And that's why I want to be in this field, because I love learning that. So.
And so you've also, did you say you also took on you're mentoring a coach, or you're being mentored by somebody else?
I've been mentored. I've had 2 different mentors already in the past 2 years, and now I just took on another one who is a next level investment. And so it's a lot of people are coming up, and me being able to show up and afford this. And but I know it's the right move. And this weird, deep rock-seated inner part of me understands that this is the right thing to do. And so it's another feeling of leaping, and there's not quite the net there yet, but you just have to trust it.
And I think if anything, the more you do it, even though you are subjected to risky decisions and scary times, the fact that you initially took that leap, I think kind of eases it. Because when you look at it retrospectively, you're like, well, I've made these decisions in the past, similar decisions that were fearful, and they worked out. And they were scary, and it wasn't easy, and I couldn't figure it out immediately. But I knew I figured it out in the past when I made my first huge jump, and I am very confident in myself that I will continue to figure these things out. And of course, there's going to be some things that maybe don't work out, right? There may have already been some things in your life like that, that had been. I said, what was some of the really hard roadblocks, and it's really tough. Like when you're in a relationship and that person, you either choose what you're truly impassioned about, or somebody that's there with your life. And when you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever in your life that's close with you, I think it'd be very hard to rip that portion away in hopes to create something much more amazing that that is your path, that's going to be good for you, and that's really hard to do, man. But you've done it, so
really was.
It's never easy.
And it really was. That was kind of the last remaining piece of that old life and that old part of me that needed to be shed, and emerged from. And I clung to that for a very, very long time. And but once you release it, you just know more of who you are. And I think when it comes down to what you're saying with the fear, and knowing that I made that big jump before, so that I will be supported when I make it now. For people out there who are wanting to make big jumps, start with little jumps. Start with doing things that are just outside of your comfort zone, that put you in a little state of fear. Every week I try and do one thing at least that gets me out of my comfort zone. Last week I rode my bike at sunrise up to the Golden Gate Bridge, and just something as simple as trying a new dance class, or waking up on the other side of the bed in the morning. Anything to just put you in sort of a discomfort state, so that you're used to that, and you start to build up that rock of strength within.
Most definitely.
Makes it so much easier than to just take the big leaps in your life.
No. Yeah. Phenomenal points. I've spoke towards that. I think that's a huge thing with goals. I've talked about, I write down the silliest things for me to accomplish sometimes, some days, just so I can actually check something off. So to give the examples of doing things that put you in uncomfortable positions, even if they're really small, gets you, habitually, or practices to be able to do that, and gets your mind in the zone to be able to accept that you can even get into uncomfortable positions. Because I think maybe too many times, or if you're in a position where you're in a comfortable position for quite a while, then you're not going to be that subjected to want to change or be put in those positions. So to continuously do that, make it consistent, habitual, then you can break off of that And then, of course, sometimes when you make these huge life changes, that might ease it a little bit because I've done similar things before. I can do this. And then when you've done something as great as you have done, like we've said in your story and your life, that you look back and you're like, I did it. I made the jump, I made the change, and I'm going to continue to do it. And I'm going to face adversity. I'm going to continuously do it like you've described it. You're going to have this journey. You're going to continuously have challenges, and that's what it's about. It's it's that journey that you want to live your life. You don't want to just live your life consistently for these goals, for these long-term goals, which it's fine to have those, but you want to be able to remember, love your wins along the way, and take time to take a deep breath and see what you're accomplishing. There's just so many factors that you have to be able to apply, but you definitely have to be able to take that risk first and foremost, and then have that confidence in yourself to continue to do that, and that you can do it.
I agree. So beautifully said. I feel like you rounded out all the topics there.
I don't know. So many times. No, I eat my words all the time. Everybody knows I'm not a professional. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a good talker. But I care about it, and I try to. I just try to put it in the best words I possibly can, and I am very thankful for you taking the time out of your busy schedule and out of your day to share it with me and share it with everybody who's listening. So thank you very much. And how can people find you? Websites, social media, you name it.
Well, thank you for having me. I really did enjoy being here and talking to another light worker in the world. But in order to find me, the best way would be Instagram, so it's _Goot_life, so GOOT, and then also my website, so thegootlife.co is my website, and has all the information about working with me or just say hello. I'd love to meet you out there if you want to step into a light leading space yourself.
Absolutely. And of course, as always, we are on YouTube, we're on iTunes, we're on Podbean, which is for Android, for those that don't know, and all of your information will be in all those summaries, so you can just check out your social media and check out your website there, and hopefully we direct some people towards you that have been inspired by you, because I know that I have. So again, thank you very much for your time, and I'm looking forward to keep in touch with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristof. Enjoy your day, whatever you do. Hopefully it's a good one. All right.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. See ya.